This is not a test. Now is the time to panic.
There was and there is an alert that's out right now that radioactive material in New Jersey has gone missing.
First up, why the government is asking Jersey residents not to shine lasers at drones and to let the drones go back to doing their job of pestering you.
Possible drone landing that happened.
With drones on the ground, we have footage of government crews working hard.
Hey, you want to trade me a tuna for that yodel?
Next, we have the latest in Syria, starting with an exclusive interview with the Syrian jail's barber and his technique to keep pit people looking sharp. And lastly, this picture of Assad has social scientists wondering how a man with no wiener made such a good dictator. Or if perhaps his brutality could have been neutered if the West were to share their technology for longer dicks. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. We are here broadcasting to you live from Antarctica because, things are getting crazy in the world. You got all these drones, there's an alien invasion, and so I want to be close to the ice wall so I can be one of the first to, enter into the outer realms once, the aliens land and they actually, for a brief moment in time, open up the gates to the ice wall to let the few believers in before the aliens ransack the Earth, and they have to kill everyone on Earth before they're allowed to enter the other realm as well. I don't know if you guys have all this information, but lucky for you, you're here, you're on the Run Your Mouth podcast, and so lucky for you, you get to learn these things that you wouldn't have otherwise have known. Everybody, if you're out in New Jersey, please come to my show this Thursday. I've been working my ass off all week. I've been pounding the Adderall. I've been putting together the slides. I've been remembering why I said that I was not going to do another end-of-year presentation or no more live shows with the slides. It's probably the last time I'm going to do it, but come on out, Jersey people. And I feel like we're a little bit out of sync. Usually me and you guys, we're perfectly in sync. In fact, that would have been a great segue for the, you know what, we're going to go out of order. That is a good segue for the first topic, which is that you have to thank Justin Timberlake for being one of the rare celebrities with the small wiener. Usually all of these celebrities cross the board, you see pictures of their wiener, and you're forced to feel worse about yourself. But finally, we've got a celebrity willing to come forward, take one for the team, and show us that he's got a little, tiny little putty pecker. Maybe this is why that guy was an alcoholic, why he hasn't got involved in the Puff Daddy parties. Or maybe the next thing you know is he's going to hire one of these people to slap on one of those big fake Hollywood hogs and go film and release a porn so that this doesn't start ruining his reputation. But at least in the meantime, I'd like to salute Justin Timberlake for being one of the celebrities out in the open with the tiny hog. All right, and now back to what I was trying to say about my show this Thursday. There's a lot of stuff I would have otherwise have covered on the show, but I went in deep, me and Ludwig von Mises Pieces, put together all the slides. So if you're out in Jersey or Texas this weekend, I will also be doing this chunk of material in San Antonio. I will be bringing the projector for some backyard action. I got Syria. I've got a new piece on the border wall. I've got, because Joe Biden's selling it off again. I've got a whole breakdown of the drone situation. And I forgot what else. And then I got other comics on the show. And then I got some good segments, mixing and matching the newses, some sketches filmed. We've got some good stuff going on. All right, but let's get into the show. Might be a slightly shorter episode. But, I'm bringing you guys the hard-hitting news. And then I will probably put up footage from the Jersey show, which is kind of the missed Run Your Mouth. Like I said, we're a little bit out of sync because I'm skipping an episode. Usually the things go in order. We're now officially out of canon because there's a whole episode of material that I'm doing on Thursday. But I don't want to miss this show. Anyways, we don't have to, the drones, they're messing with me. They're all up in the sky with the blinky lights and they're throwing me a little bit off my game. So let's start with a first story for today. Congress considers substantial pay raise amid public outcry. where the people of Congress, they've done such a good job. They've protected our skies from drone invasions. They've kept us out of foreign entanglements. They just had Ukrainian soldiers get killed. They pulled off working with the deep state to overthrow Syria. The members of Congress, they've done a good job. And so they deserve a pay raise from $174,000 to $243,000. That's a hell of a pay raise. I don't even know how they came up with specifically $243,000. It's like all these congressmen were sitting around. They've been watching these sluts on Twitter say, you can't date a guy who makes less than $200,000 a year, which is a hilarious thing to hear from some hot 24-year-old of how many people do you think live in this country that are making more than $200,000 a year that are under the age of 30. So you're basically saying you're looking for a sugar daddy. That's basically what you're saying. And you know what Congress is saying? Hey guys, we're having a hard time picking up these younger chicks because of this inflation that happened. Let's all blame Biden. Let's finally say, yes, this inflation thing is real. Even the Democrats are finally like, I can't afford to live anymore. I'm going to need a substantial pay raise because of what Biden did to the prices. Hey guys, we've granted so much free money to everybody else and put so much free money into the system. I'm going to need a pay raise because we drove up all the prices. Overseeing all of this extra money that we're distributing for people has made this job a little bit more demanding. And so I'm going to need myself a pay raise. If you guys give me the pay raise, then I'll be able to continue giving out more and more free money for everybody and then pushing up the inflation. I just need to make sure that my paycheck is going to, or you know what it is? They're sitting around like, guys, all right, so we're all going to agree that the days of front running the stock market are over. I think we can all agree that that was a problem. And so, if they're going to take that away from us, you're going to have to pay me, I'm going to need a bit of a bonus to keep my mouth shut on that one. And so, as a part of this giant package that they're trying to pass, there you got handsome Rand Paul, the hair perfectly scruffed and disheveled, showing you the giant mountain of paperwork that no one could ever possibly read. I'm sure there was a time where there was a good old, instead of everyone having their staffers, it'd be nice if there were just like warehouses, like the way that you might keep chimps, but instead it was just like interns. It was actually white, wealthy kid interns with wealthy parents. And then, all of these people who get up in front of the TV cameras with their big old smiles and tell you about how much they like other people would run in there. They wouldn't even do the old, which is fun, of slapping a whole chunk of papers onto a desk. That's fun to have a big folder and just slap it down. Instead, they would open up the door and then they would throw the entire paperwork like it's money into the air. They would just throw it so that the interns would have to reorganize the paper. And then every single one of them, I guess, take a handful of 10 and start sitting there with the highlighters. And, everyone's got to take their 10 pages and tell you the bullshit that was in their 10 pages. Because nobody can sit down and read that amount. Hey, guys, we're voting in 10 minutes. Here's 3,000 pages of all the people that need free money. And then, you know what it is? I guess it's kind of like when you get your yearbook as a kid, you want to see your picture. Everyone goes to, they get a little note and it just says, hey, it's on page 43, that free thing that you needed. And you flip. You're like, okay, tobacco companies in Louisiana will continue to be able to do this, this, and this. And then you call up your one friend who is the senator of wherever. And you're like, hey, man, did you get that one free thing that you need of the nuclears? He's like, yeah, I got the thing that I needed. And then he calls his guy and goes, hey, it's almost like hockey tryouts where you're like, you're checking to see if you and your friends made the list. Or if you're an alternate or what position you have or whatever, everyone just checks their page. They make sure that their free thing is there. And they're like, all right, you know what? I don't care. I don't have enough time to read this thing. I'm getting a pay raise. I know that the one company I had to give some free shit to, I know that APAC's not going to run up against me. They're getting their free thing. As long as everyone gets their free thing, I'll sign off on it. I'm going to have to imagine that this will be one of the places that AI will actually be helpful. Where since the rest of us, we don't have warehouses of interns that we just get to yell at. I mean, sure, I have an expendable roster of producers who have gotten substantially better at pressing buttons. I mean, we had a long-standing button pressing issue around here, but on the last couple episodes, were there problems with the green screen's a little shadowy at the moment. I don't know what the new intern did. That it doesn't look like I'm in it. It's, you know why? It's because Antarctica doesn't actually exist. I'm in Antarctica, and they fooled the world with the green screens that exist down in Antarctica to try and pretend like the sun doesn't set in Antarctica and it's up for 24 hours. And I'm here to report to you that actually all of Antarctica doesn't exist and that the entire thing is a green screen. Sadly, okay, anyways, back to the giant mountain of paperwork that Rand Paul is holding. I wonder if AI will actually make these situations better, that you'll be able to shove it into the computer and tell me, hey, computer, tell me all the stupid horseshit that's in this thing, and then it will actually be able to spit out an answer. All right, guys, before we move on, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor, YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, only place in the entire internet you can get an entire kilo of Kratom for just $60. All right, let's take a couple of comments. Let's see what's going on. John Popick, how do I vote for congressional pay decreases? I don't know, but I'd get behind it. Gimp gladly. So time to replace them with machines, I guess. Real offended. They adjusted for inflation, laughing his ass off. Moderately amused. Is that the same bill they tried to pass 2 months ago on short notice? Proof they do nothing other than spending if they still don't know what's in it. Yeah, that's the thing with every single time. It's like, you know, it sounds real scary. Oh my God, the government's going to shut down. We're at the fiscal cliff at the end, and then it's every 2 months. It's like every 2 months it repeats the same storyline. Can we at least dress it up a little bit differently? I mean, how many times do you have to get concerned with the giant bill that nobody's going to read, and then they finally passed it at the last second because otherwise they can't go home for Christmas, and nobody doesn't want to be able to go home for Christmas because if they can't give the gifts to their kids, it's the same storyline every single time. But here you have it once again, a giant brick of paperwork no one's going to read, and them trying to shove it through before Christmas so that they can go home to their families. Now, this is a fun one. You got a lot of people that have been saying that the Earth's not round, it's a psyop, it's flat, and I've never engaged with this topic because it's a little bit too weird, and I don't know enough about science, I don't know enough about the globe, I haven't walked the whole thing. You tell me it's round, I'll go with round. It seems too weird to me that they would have lied to me about the roundness of the Earth when it's in fact flat. That we've had, but you know, they lie to me about all sorts of things. The idea that they're lying, it's just I'm not that invested in this, and I don't want to get obsessed with the fact that the Earth is flat and not round. I'm just okay with a round Earth. It doesn't really affect my life, and maybe there were times where I felt that way with vaccines, or even that the government's here for your own good. And so who knows? Maybe I am a sucker that I just like the concept of the round Earth that they told me about. That's the little piece of the illusion that I'd like to hold on to, but there was nothing too compelling to me. It's like, I've said this example before. I don't know enough about the table of elements that if you want to tell me that they're supposed to, I don't even know, what is there, 32 things? I have no idea. If you want to tell me there's actually 40 things on the table of elements, and the fact that they keep pretending like these things aren't on the table of elements that are supposed to be on the table of elements is why all of science is, the vision is clouded and we can't have an understanding, I have no fucking clue. Can the government spend less money and quit creating asset bubbles so that people can save and we can have a better society and we can let the markets just compete and create value and not have government constantly steal my wealth and create, you know, opportunities for the elites to steal wealth from us and to keep us down? I know what the elites are up to. They monopolized violence, where they continue to basically steal and do all the things that from an evolutionary standpoint help people amass power, and then they make us play by the societal rules of being nice. So anyways, the point I'm trying to say is I'm not too concerned with Earth flatness or roundness. I don't care. Do women have tits? Are those round? I don't care. Flat, globe. Globe seems more convenient for the sake of they told me that, and I don't think that that's worsened my life believing that I was on a round Earth as opposed to a flat Earth. I don't think that that's ever created a problem for me. These people who are into flat Earth have never explained why that lie of has created, like they haven't explained to me why that's an issue. Why me believing that it's a globe instead of a flat has actually, do I sleep less time? Has my penis shrunk as a result? Is that why I have gut problems? Is that why I don't have kids? Is that why I don't have more wealth? In what way was the fact that I was bought into the illusion of a globe instead of us being on a flat plane ruined my life? They never explained that part. Anyways, someone called the bluff on the flat Earth thing, and he took one of the leading Twitter accounts who's all obsessed with the flat Earth. Must have been very wealthy. It can't be cheap to get down to Antarctica, or to create giant green screens of being in Antarctica, or to bring some guy just to the middle of Russia and pretend like you're in Antarctica, to get someone then to get in a drone and fly around the sun in a perfect wavy pattern just to convince the one guy on Twitter that the Earth is actually round. I mean, the only way that you could have this kind of money would be if you were actually part of the lizard clan that wanted to keep the illusion going about the fact that the Earth was round. So I don't even look at this as proof of the fact that we aren't on flat Earth. I just look at it as proof of the fact that the elites are so invested in this illusion that we live on a globe that they took one of the voices off of Twitter that was waking people up to the fact that the Earth is in fact round, and then brought them to fake Antarctica to watch the drone sun go around in circles as they had a movie set beam light into the area to fool this person into thinking that there's actually a 24-hour sun. And is a 24-hour sun even... I'd like to know how the area that's lit all the time that's closest to the sun is still cold. Can someone explain that to me? I mean, that's the real conspiracy theory here, isn't it? The point being, I know absolutely nothing about science. I guess the idea of how this debunks it is that if the Earth was flat, then the sun experience from Antarctica should be the same as the sun experience that we have here. I'm just assuming in my idiot brain that that's the argument. That if there was flat Earth and the Earth, I guess, just traveled over it, or maybe does it go in a circle? I don't know. But this has been a long rant for a very simple point that I was trying to make, which is with all the money that we spend on our government, and perhaps it's best left to the free market because this was a free market activity, but maybe we can crowdfund the bluff fund where the dumbest shit that people say on Twitter, it's almost like a better Mythbusters, where if people say dumb enough shit on Twitter and it gets traction, then we dip into the bluff fund. And they have to, it's almost like if you don't want to show up for debate, then clearly, you don't really know what you're talking about, or you don't want to man up. It's like if you're out there saying, hey, I can kick the shit out of that guy, I'm bigger than that guy, and then he goes, all right, I'll fight you, and he goes, well, I'm not going to fight you. And then you go, I'm not going to fight you. Well, then clearly you don't think you can beat the guy in a fight. So I think we should have the National Bluff Fund, where if someone says something dumb enough on Twitter, and then it gets traction, let's put these kind of resources into actually bringing the people and showing them firsthand with public admissions of the fact that they got things wrong. That's nice. For all the just back and forth nonsense yelling, they yell, we yell, everyone yells, people yell, news says something stupid, I'm over here just going bullshit. Nobody ever eats crow. How often do you see a person actually, and I should have pulled the video of the guy who says, he's a little bit sheepish. He goes, listen, you got to say when you got things wrong, and I believe that the Earth, that there wouldn't be a 24-hour sun, but he still doesn't say that he thinks the Earth is round. At least in the video I saw, he seems to want to admit this point and go back to the drawing board about how there can be a 24-hour sun in one part of the globe, but that it's not a globe, that it's actually still flat. He still wants to retain some of that, but at least he eats crow on that. For some reason, he honestly believed that the sun wouldn't set or would set in Antarctica, and now he's forced to, and I don't know why he came up with that belief. Anyways, I'm just trying to say that we should have the National Bluff Fund, where we take some of the dumbest things that are getting traction on Twitter, and then people should publicly actually eat a crow, which might be delicious. I haven't pulled Haitians on it. They're eating weird things out of our parks. So for all we know, crow's delicious. Maybe people will purposely get traction on saying dumb shit just so that they get the opportunity to eat some crow. All right, let's take a couple comments. But before we do, if you're going to travel down to Antarctica and you don't want your balls freezing clean off your body and then just dropping through your pant leg and hitting the earth and then just shattering, and then you can't even reattach it to the earth because your own testicles just froze into a ball and then shattered like glass in Antarctica, then you're going to need sheathunderwear.com. Because with sheathunderwear.com, firstly, with their fine moisture wicking technology, if you're out in a cold place and you're moving around and you're getting sweaty, it's going to absorb that moisture so that you're not just now sitting, because that's what happens. Sometimes you're active in a cold environment, you generate all this sweat, you stop being active, and then that sweat freezes on you, and then you're freezing cold. So if you're going skiing, you're going biking, you're doing athletic activities, and you're outdoor in the winter, you want moisture wicking technology that's going to take that moisture away from your body, not let it concentrate on your balls so that your balls freeze. And then if for some reason your balls did freeze in sheath underwear, that supportive pouch, it's going to keep it against your body so you have an opportunity to defrost your nuts and that they don't just fall down your pants leg and then shatter against the earth. And now you're looking at shards of your own testicles and the blood just congeals so that you actually survive the incident, but now don't have testicles for the rest of your life. So if you don't want to be in a situation where you no longer have testicles for the rest of your life, you got to go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code RYM and you get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. And Eric John Pizza Artist, he gets it. He goes, sheath underwear keeps my spinning balls from orbiting each other. I'd read that it keeps my balls from orbiting the earth, but same idea. Real offend. There's not one proof we live on a globe. That's why they did that whole charade. There's not one proof we live on a globe. So now I have to actually prove that there is a globe. I don't know. Pictures from space. Is that? I mean, you can debunk that there's space or pictures from it, but wouldn't that be some aspect of proof? I don't know. I don't know enough about the topic. Real offended. I've won over 10 debates against PhDs. The globe has been finished. All right. The Duder. I'm fixed. My testicles just get in the way now. All right. Anyways, moving forward. Next thing. It's been as contested as whether or not we live on a flat earth or on a fine globe is whether or not people who are born with particular genitalia and they want to identify as other genitalia, if they can be that thing. If I'm a man, I want to say I'm a lady. Does that mean that I'm now a lady? And then even if you wanted to say all that's true, well then should you be competing in women's sports? And now there was a tragic thing that took place where, some a dude who identified as a lady was playing women's volleyball, spiked a ball right into a lady's face, and apparently she has severe brain damage from it. And for all those people saying, well, what about the kid's suicide? What about the dangers? What about, well, here you got some real life consequences from allowing this philosophy to prevail throughout our culture, for treating it like it's real, and then a total unwillingness to acknowledge, well, hey, if we go with your reality, there might be some problems here. There might be some dangers also. There might also be some consequences. Hey, though we're just trying to be nice and be inclusive, there might be some consequences from that. And so in this case, the consequence was that a man was playing ladies volleyball, spiked a ball into a lady's face, and gave the lady brain damage. Now, you know what? Maybe I have this story wrong, and I'm not a typical consumer of women's volleyball. And maybe this happens in women's volleyball all the time because they have weak, stupid lady faces, and women shouldn't be playing volleyball at all. And even when they're playing against other women, this is a frequent occurrence. Or maybe you say that volleyball is mostly a co-ed sport, and even when men are playing volleyball, this rarely happens. So perhaps I've not done my homework on this particular issue to understand just how fragile women's faces are. And the real story here is how women should not be playing volleyball, but I'd hate to bring that argument forward. Do you ever randomly see pictures of women's beach volleyball and just go, holy shit, that's the nicest ass on the planet? Why don't I spend more time on beaches just pretending like I'm a fan of this sport? And how come all women aren't playing this sport? Because whatever that fast twitch in the sand fiber is, and then it's also just funny that that's the sport that the outfit you gotta wear slut wear in order to compete. Anyways, it seems to me like this is a pretty devastating blow for all those people out there that want to live in this reality that men can declare themselves to be women And I guess even if men can declare themselves to be women, maybe they should not have the opportunity to play in women's sports. Or if they do, we need to have some sort of, do you still have weak lady strength? Can you prove to us that you're as weak and as unathletic as the women? Because otherwise it's not safe for you to compete with them. The only way that you can compete with the women is if you can prove that your arms and faces are as fragile and as useless as theirs are. But I mean, clearly, at what point does it become undeniable? I guess singular occurrence. You know, how many women's volleyball games are going on tomorrow? Maybe I'm the person going, hey, get rid of all the guns because there was another school shooting, and, you know, going with none of the statistical awareness of it. But it seems like there's not a lot of upside to letting men who identify as women play in female sports. And if female sports exist, I think it's because they go, hey, we're going to do our thing so we can actually compete with each other and do it safely. And, you know, not feel like this is completely worthless and pathetic because we don't have the strength and might of men. And so how are women supposed to be able to have that experience if you can potentially have this? And then at what point are you not being a dick if you're a lady and you show up and there's a dude on the other side who identifies as a lady who you don't want to compete with for just going, yeah, I guess we're not doing the event. I guess we're all just going home. At what point is that? It's almost like a Larry David thing where it's like, hey, you're being a dick. You're not being nice to that person. You're making them feel bad. And it's like, feel bad. I don't want them spiking a ball in my face. I'm actually a lady and I have a nice face. All right, next topic. You know, I'd said that this was going to be a shorter episode, and I was wrong. Assad's fall upends the Middle East's largest drug empire. Captagon helps sustain the Syria regime and fueled war and addiction across the region. Firstly, if you can get your hands on some Captagon, I'll do a Captagon episode. Maybe I'll track down Johnny from Peddling Fiction podcast. We did meth together. It wasn't actually meth. I bought what I thought was Mexican Ritalin, and I thought was a low dosage, and oh my God, I've never done an amphetamine like that in my entire life. Or maybe BK Chris would be up for this. We could do the Run Your Mouth All-Nighter episode, the marathon episode, like the glory, I wouldn't say the glory days, but like the old Run Your Mouth podcast that we used to do from the Gas Digital studio where every single person that was there drunk would just interrupt the show and pretend like they were the co-host and then sit down for the entire episode. But I'd like to see what this Captagon's all about. Apparently, it was a big amphetamine out in Germany, and then Syria reignited it. And it's always interesting that even governments are involved in the drug trade. I've heard it more than once. You know, I guess the CIA back in the day, they made cocaine illegal so that they could get themselves some cocaine profits to run they could have some budget for their operations. I remember reading from William Engdahl, who's a conspiracy guy, but I like him. And maybe he would argue he's not a conspiracy guy. Fair enough. And what's conspiracy? I mean, I'm currently standing out in what was previously Antarctica, but is actually an area of Russia with green screens and drones mimicking the sun. Anyways, he was once talking about that Afghanistan was all about just controlling the poppy trade and that the CIA has always been about, you know, making sure that they've got their hands in all drug operations. But I guess the first thing that was interesting to me is that you got Assad, and the guy's a billionaire, and he's involved in the industry of taxation. He's involved in the industry of the power, the lights, all this stuff. And you would it's just interesting that you would also then get involved in drugs, like all that other shit's not enough for you. But then if we're going to be bringing back random drugs from a previous time period, why can't we get Quaaludes? You know, I've yet to hear anybody say a bad thing about Quaaludes ever. Firstly, it could just be it's a Wolf of Wall Street thing that you watch Wolf of Wall Street and you go, man, this looks like a fun drug. Same as I've never done acid, but when I was a kid and I saw Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I was like, I got to try acid. I've got to try ether. I've got to get a knife and threaten women for free pie. I mean, the drug consumption I thought I would do when I was in high school and I saw that movie, and then, you know, turned out to just be a very not cool adult who has all the free time in the world, does comedy, goes everywhere, could do all of these things, but it's just like, I guess I'm just going to drink and take some kratom. That's where I'm at. Not together, though. I mean, you could do a little bit together, but, trying to keep it safe. Kratom's not even for human consumption. That's just for sitting in the bath with and looking at. It's just to feel good about having an entire kilo of. Anyways, can we bring back Quaaludes? If evil dictators are already going to get into the operations of selling and moving drugs around, I mean, it's such a remarkable storyline that you got this drug that everyone talks about as being the most wonderful thing. You've got labs that can make drugs, but you never hear about anyone going, hey, man, I actually got my hands on some Quaaludes. And let me tell you, not in a long time, but there were a couple times that I stayed up on Ambien, and that was a fun drug. I don't know if you ever did Ambien, but staying up on Ambien, that was a fun drug. And Ambien's a fun drug to stay up on because the entire time while you're on it, you're like, I'm 100% fine. It's like an edible where you're like, oh, I should eat more edibles. This didn't do anything to me. And then and don't do this. You're not supposed to drink on it. But I've had that experience where you're like, I'm 100% fine. This didn't do anything. I'm good to drink. And you do a bunch of drinking. And then the next morning you look back at the night before and you're like, oh, I was not fine. I was definitely fucked up. Anyways, if we can get our hands on some Quaaludes, I'll start rooting for dictators if they start shipping Quaaludes to the United States of America. And with all that said, if you can get your hands on some Captagon, some fresh Syrian Captagon, let's rally the troops and have a Captagon night. Captagon porch tour. Three cities in a row, all in one night. Goes till last show at 5 a.m. like a rave. I talk a big game on the podcast. If someone actually showed up, I'd be like, you got drugs from me. I'm not touching that. Waste of the day, $267 million spent on fighting misinformation. We talked about this briefly on Part of the Problem, but I just thought it's funny. I feel good about the podcasting that I'm doing, that riches and spoils will come my way because of all of my efforts in this space, and that there will be a point in time when I amass a giant audience and it pays well. But, just the idea that amount of money was spent on defense. It's not even the offense. It's not even the offense of how much fake information the government puts into the world. It's not even all of the colleges that they work with, all of the professors that they work with, all of the intelligence communities that influence the intelligence communities. I mean, think about how much money is spent in government on fake reports or commissioning fake reports or signing a stamp of approval for a company that wants you to think that their Twinkies are healthy and then condemning beef. Just like, think about, not only do they put this much fake information into the world, $267 million was spent just trying to remove people like me from just talking their horse shit in front of a green screen. I don't know, it's just incredible to think that more than you will ever make in your entire lifetime. Like, I mean, that's not even a figure I would come close unless you're Rogan. No one's touching that number. I wouldn't expect to make 26 million, maybe 2.6 in an entire career. But it's insane to think to me that they spent and this is just what we know, $267 million on defense of not just them putting out all of their horseshit information, but that much money spent on just making sure that information like this can't even reach you. We talked about this on Part of the Problem as well. All the clues that Syrian producer CNN helped free was hidden Assad regime torture. And obviously, this was a pretty epic fail from CNN. But expect more of this, because as we've now teamed up with the CIA, has now teamed up with the terrorists, this is the kind of hijinks that we could look forward to. There used to be good storylines of that the Pentagon-backed rebels were then fighting the CIA-backed rebels, and you're like, how much money are we spending just so that our people can be fighting our own people? Fake wars. I've talked about fake war theater, and now as we go full circle and we start teaming up with the most evil for 20 years, the most evil people that exist out there, and we got to fight 20-year-long wars, and we have to make sure that these people can't get their hands on any resources. Now we're starting to team up with them, and so you're going to have some confusion about, wait, so this is the old bad guy from that regime, and he's not one of the new bad guys that we're trying to work with? It's going to be hard for these news organizations to keep these storylines straight, so we can look forward to some good shenanigans moving forward. All right, and then 2 more things, and then we're going to call it an episode. I cut these out from my presentation for tomorrow because they weren't that funny, but it's good enough for the podcast. After Assad's fall, some say it's time for Syrian refugees to go home. And what I thought was kind of funny about this, you got these refugees. They left Syria, and now Syria has collapsed. And you've got the Al-Qaeda people that have taken over Syria, and they went through CIA training, and they're just trying to pretend like they're there for diversity and that they're there to, for inclusion and for everybody. And so if you're a refugee of Syria, that puts you in the weird position of that you could be a good, honest person rooting for beheadings. Where you're sitting out there and it's like the meme of poking the dead guy where you're like, do something, do something, do something. You're like, before they ship me out of here, can you guys quit pretending like you're nice people? I really don't want to get shipped back to Syria. And then you guys start going back to the terrorist thing. Like, just, can you come out of the closet and quit pretending like you guys aren't terrorists before they send me back there? And then this I will be covering tomorrow. But the FBI, they put out a report. I'm sorry. I think it was Congress or Senate. They put out a report about what happened on January 6th. And, of course, it came back that the FBI did not conduct. The FBI was not responsible for what happened on January 6th. They didn't provoke January 6th. They didn't instruct people to participate in January 6th. But they did have 26 informants there on the day. Which then leads you to the question, all right, if these people weren't involved in orchestrating it, but you had 26 people who were solely there to gather information and then give you the information, then why didn't you know that this was going to happen? I mean, if this was in fact a violent, pre-planned insurrection, and you guys were prepared for the fact that groups of people needed to be monitored because they might plan for such activities, and so you had informants amongst them, not there to guide them, not there to provoke them, not there to entrap them, but just to collect the information so that you could be aware if such a threat were to occur. Well, then why didn't you gather this information? And they essentially went with what I'm calling the Monty Python defense, which if you ever saw Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they come upon a French castle in the middle of England. Doesn't even make sense. And they want to get inside that castle, but they won't let them in. And so they have this great idea for a Trojan horse where they realize, let's build them a rabbit as a gift. Let's push the rabbit to the gates. And then they do that. And then they go, well, what's the next step? And they go, fuck, we're supposed to climb out of the rabbit. And they just forgot to do the second step. And I guess that's what the FBI did. They were clever enough to get the informants, but not smart enough to ask the informants for the information that they had collected. They weren't smart enough to think about what step 2 might be. They only went with the step 1. And now, the latest from the drone stuff, which I'm already over the drone stuff. If you guys are aliens, can you just be aliens? If you guys are sniffing nuclear material, just tell me it's nuclear material. And at this point, it's hard to know. I haven't seen any drones. And, I understand people hear about it on the news. They start getting more obsessed about it. They're seeing drones everywhere. To what extent are they drones? To what extent are these people just looking at airplanes? And then how long do I have to hear about this shit for? It's fun. It's fun to panic about something for about 3 days. But then if nothing happens, I want to change the channel. And I'd like to change the channel on this topic. So if you've got some big old grand reveal, or you're just trying to distract me from the fact that you guys were trying to give yourselves giant raises. I don't know what's going on with this one. I mean, we'll get to it in a second, but I'm pretty bored of it, and I don't know, the drone, they better come to Connecticut so that I can feel myself more concerned once again and actually be reinvested in the topic, because at the moment, I don't see any of the drones. People are talking about the drones. Seems like the drones just got a bunch of blinky lights where they're trying to do subliminal messaging to, as a new form of mind control to convince people of, I don't know, that we need to support Israel because too many people are getting information online and they don't support Israel anymore. I don't know what the drones are up there doing. But the latest thing from the government is some world-class horseshit where it brings to mind what happened during the election, where all of a sudden Kamala Harris would be asked policy questions of, do you think this would be good policy? And then she would start talking about what's legal or illegal. And so now their newest brand of horseshit, it feels childish. It almost feels like when you said, oh, I'll bet you $1 million, and then you lose the bet. You're like, I said doll hairs, not dollars. I said doll hairs. And so they seem to be very particular with their language now, where they want to say that the drones are not federal, but the activities of those drones are actually also not illegal and nothing that you should be concerned about. Which means what? Are they federal drones? Are government, or I'm sorry, are military drones not considered federal, that they're very specifically using the word federal? Or did we outsource our drones to, I don't know, Canada, so that Canada controls the drones? And then we could say, well, that's not our government drones, but they're also not there illegally and we're not concerned about them. There's something very technical about the language that they're now using as they tell you, hey, don't be concerned with these drones. We're not sure what they are. They're not government drones, but we also know what they're doing isn't illegal. Isn't there something very annoying about, like, hey, we don't know what that is, but don't be concerned with it? Like, can you imagine if you saw a doctor and you had a giant head growing out of the back of your head, like an alien head, like in Total Recall, the alien chest? It was just, and the doctor looked and goes, yeah, I don't know what that is, but I wouldn't worry about it. Don't tell me you both don't know what it is, and I don't have to worry about it. But apparently, you know what it is well enough to know that it's not illegal, and that also it's not federal drones, but it is something. So you guys know what it is. You don't want to admit that it's you, but you also want to make it very clear that it's legal and that no one should be concerned about it. My best theory at the moment was essentially that they wanted to get us nervous about these so that they can enact some new legislation to, it just came to mind, this seems like an old fear tactics that we give more power over to government, where they pester us with drones, and it's their drones, and they go, hey, you guys don't want to be pestered with these drones? Well, then just, you sign this paper, and that little drone problem you're having can go right away. We don't currently have the authority to deal with this drone problem. Doesn't that sound like when Biden was trying to sell you on the border wall stuff? Hey, unless you guys legalize the current level of illegal immigration, I don't have the authority to deal with it. But you can give me the authority as long as you give me the thing that I want. Doesn't it feel a little bit like that? We don't currently have the knowledge or authority to deal with this problem. But if you give us a little... So anyways, I didn't have the story totally right. I didn't realize that there was a registry for drones. I got fact-checked in real time by Sam Tripoli's great producer, Johnny Woodward. I believe that's his name. If I got it wrong, I apologize. But I just did Tinfoil Hat. I think that's coming out today. Go check that out. It's always a great time with Mr. Tripoli. And so here is some new talk about government regulations that need to be enacted in order so that they could solve the problem that they are clearly creating. Let's give it a listen, and you guys can tell me if we have sound. I don't have sound. Do you guys have sound? Oh, here, wait. You guys don't have sound, but you might have sound now. But I don't have sound. Do you guys have sound?
And data to all of the counties involved.
I don't know why I don't have
and
sound.
I think they're doing a fantastic job in doing so. But again, they're limited. Part of our
you guys have
conversations
sound.
with
I don't have
Congressman
sound.
Smith early
I'll just let it
on,
play
as
for a
he
couple
knows,
minutes and then pretend like I know what he said because I pre-watched it.
We need to have our legislation keep pace with the laws and the operation of drones. It has not, right? We know that the FAA and the federal government is solely in charge of the airways.
Fix, can you help me and remind me what I said on the going out of war sale? The podcast is called Run Your Mouth, and I say a bunch of shit, and I don't remember what I said, but if I got something right, I'd like to take full credit for it. All right, and then you had Rand Paul, and I got to dig into this because I really don't understand the specifics. I've been working hard, like I said, on my show in Jersey. It's in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Very easy to get there from New York City if you're a New York City person. If you're in Jersey, it's also, I'm just going to say it's very easy to get to. If you live in California, this show is so easy to get to. But been working hard all week, and so please come out to my show. I got a bunch of great comics on it. And then also my San Antonio show, the roster of Austin comics I got coming out from that one, on top of the fact that I'm going to be doing, this material 2 times and 2 times only. RobbieTheFire.com has all those links. But yeah, Chuck Schumer saying we need more authority in order to deal with this problem. And then Rand Paul coming forward, well, I thought you guys said that there was no problem and there was nothing to worry about. And what exactly is it that you need that we're not currently allowed to do? And then here's the part that got confusing to me is apparently, I guess there was some sort of an expansion in monitoring, that if we were to monitor the drones, I guess we'd be giving some new authority to government that they don't currently have for monitoring airwaves or airspace or something along those lines. That will be next week. I will have the full facts and figures of exactly what authority the government doesn't currently have that they were trying to give themselves the powers for so that they could stop annoying us with blinky lights in the sky. That is our episode. Thank you for hanging out with us, and let's take a couple comments, and then we will call it an episode. Harrington on the mic is fucking funny. I agree. Harrington was an excellent co-host of the show, even though he was in the producer spot. I felt like we had a great dynamic, and I think what him and BK Chris do now is excellent. And every single summer when I start doing Porch Store, I hit up Harrington and I say, hey, we should get together and we should do an old school episode. I do the same thing with my old pal Yussel, who is, it was a very different show at that time, but we also had a very fun dynamic. And like every phone call that I make to a friend telling them, hey, we should hang out sometime, I never do it. All right, here we go. All right, I don't know what that was. Spike. Fager, Robbie, Zach, and Harrington should make their own regs. That would be a fun show. In fact, I don't think the four of us have ever podcasted together. So that would definitely have some potential. Me and Harrington probably did about 100 episodes of Run Your Mouth together. And me and Fager have done quite a bit. And even the three of us are a fun dynamic. But then you throw Zach in there to throw some snipes and some jokes along the way. You always got a winning recipe with Zach. Afix, they want training and laws and money for counter-drone tech and all sorts of shit. HIPHII HR 8610, Counter UAS Authority Security Safety and Reauthorization Act of 2024. When you just put the numbers there, it seems like some Star Wars shit. DeBeard says he sat on my balls and I needed help. Well, that's on you, man. I've warned you. I've told you that you should be wearing sheath. If you were wearing sheath, that wouldn't have happened to you. Spike, they have to scare us into giving away more freedom. Yeah, that was the point I was saying. I just don't know the specifics on it. Last comment of the day, Death Mold, the level of misinformation on the show. Dr. Gonzo did not threaten the lady with the knife to get free pie. He threatened the lady with the knife and paid for the pie. And I mean, at least in the movie, it was actually the lawyer from what I recall. All right, that is our episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. Back next week, probably Wednesday, with another episode, and potentially another episode coming out on Saturday with whatever I did at the Thursday show. Except buy tickets and actually show up live, because otherwise you'll never see it ever.